Okay, people, we are going into CLO3D 7.1 and we're going to have a little bit of fun creating a sweater using Shimaseki textures exported from the Apex Fizz software. So I'm opening my new girl, Naomi. You know she's becoming my favorite CLO3D avatar, so we're just going to open her up. Guys, if you didn't know, you can download new shoes. Gonna give her these little purple booties that I downloaded from the CLO Connect store, so you can go ahead and get some new accessories and new items for your avatars to put into your renders. I'm just gonna make a quick sweater here, and I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about some of the techniques I use while making sweaters. So there's gonna be a couple of tips. You can look in the timeline if you need time code markers, chapters, whatever you want to call them. But I'm going to go ahead and start to make some of the elements that you see in a sweater. Usually sweaters have a forward shoulder. So I made the shoulder seem a little bit forward, and you'll see how I do it when I make the back. So right now I'm just going ahead and making my neckline and styling the sweater that I want. I'm just going to copy the front to the back, and then I'll make my necessary adjustments. One of the adjustments I just spoke about is the forward shoulder. So I'm just going to go ahead and move the neckline up, add a little bit more shoulder height to the back pattern, and that will give it the look of a forward shoulder, which is kind of a signature thing that you see in sweaters. So when we put it all together, you'll see how it drapes on the body with that. I'm just gonna go ahead and make some adjustments. But guys, remember that this is a knit top, so some of the things that I do will be strictly for the look of knits. So right now we are going ahead and I'm making the armhole, and then I will make the sleeve. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about is, so in this video, these are the things that we'll cover: texturing sweaters, how to work with the displacement maps, and how to make your own normal maps for sweaters, as well as some nuances in the pattern making for sweaters that is a little bit more realistic and less of a cut and sew and more of a knit look for your garments. Okay guys, so here we go. But first, I wanted to let you guys know about Tech Packer, the easy way to create tech packs online. There's a link in the description for your free trial. You can go ahead and set up your own brand in Tech Packer and start learning from their tutorials about how to make tech packs and how to create it with their card system. They've got easy ways to annotate your garments. They've got easy ways to build BOMs, cost sheets, get all your labeling information, your grading information, log in your fit sessions, and create as many pages as you need for your tech pack, and get ready to download it and send it off to the factory. So we're going to jump into part one, which is creating the sweater pattern. Remember guys, if you want to turn things on and off in your 3D window, you can navigate in your 3D toolbar, and you can click things on and off so that you have less distraction in your 3D window. Sometimes all of the colors and all of the things moving around, you can get a little distracted and find out where things are. So I'm just lining up my patterns on my avatar using my arrangement points, and I'm going to delete her hair. It's an accessory, so you can delete an accessory, and that's the hair. And basically when I'm draping, sometimes the hair gets involved with the garment. So right now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew my knitted seam into the side. I'm going to just shape the neck just a little bit. You're able to add points and shape your lines the way that you want it. Right now this is you making the pattern, so basically you can make the shapes on the body the way you want to see them shaped. It's something that is a little bit nuanced. Not everybody does it, but if you want to see how things are shaped, you can go ahead and add points, take away points, and get yourself familiar with how things are shaped on the body. So I'm going to go ahead and make my front and back armhole lengths, and I am going to make my sleeve. Now, one of the things about the sweater sleeves, this one is, you're going to see, is a little bit too long. I'm going to make a 3/4 sleeve with a ruffle, as you see in the thumbnail. But one of the things that I noticed is that you can also flip your patterns. Sometimes you're thinking left to right or right to left, which I was doing here, and I just realized that I made one side the length that it should be on the other side. So you could just actually flip your patterns at this point and get things a little bit closer to where you want it to be, facing the right direction. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. You will see me slash and spread here or there just to give the garment a little bit of a flow, as you see from the main photo at the end. So what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to experiment in shrinkage, and we're also going to experiment in how to get your trims to look the way that you want them to look, and mixing ribs and knits and seeing how that all works together in the final garment. So let me just speed this up a little bit and then we'll get back to that. So I'm going to interrupt myself here and I'm going to talk to you about adding fullness. One of the best ways to add the fullness is to add evenly across the pattern. That means making your dots, your split and your line evenly across and adding evenly, as you saw that I just did there. So I'm going to go ahead and make some of my trims that go between the garment pieces, the pattern pieces. These are called linking trims, and you see them on a lot of sweaters. So the sweater is not always just knit straight. Sometimes when you have different textures, you have to knit one texture on one piece and then you have to link them together. So this little armband here is going to serve as my linking thread, and I can make that a whole another type of stitch as well. So these are all some of the nuances that you see in sweaters, and maybe you noticed it, maybe you didn't, but this is going to help your garments look more realistic. So let me go ahead and get back into this. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and just rearrange all of my trim pieces. Now that I got all my trim pieces, I'm going to put them together so I can apply the correct fabric all at once in a separately located area. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is these waist panels. These waist panels and also the trims. You can use shrinkage on these items. A lot of times in sweaters, as you can see, the neck band, if you use the shrinkage, you don't have to worry about the measurement, because if you can see the waist and the neck, once you adjust the shrinkage, they shrink in like a sweater yarn would do. So what's happening there is that it's part of the knit process to have a shrinking element. And right now I'm just going through my pattern pieces and smoothing the lines out a little bit with your smooth line tool. And we're going to go ahead and just simulate it one more time so that everything is smoothed out, and then I will apply my textures. Now, if you notice, I didn't apply shrinkage to everything. Only the armband, the neck, and the side panels have the shrinkage applied. The other trims, I'm going to change them to 2x2, but those other trims will be on the edges, so we don't really want to shrink them at this time on the edges. However, if you're doing a style where you have maybe a rib band, not at the waistband, but maybe you have it at the bottom of your garment, then you can go ahead and shrink that. Now I'm going ahead and grab my texture that I did create in Shimaseki. But you'll notice that this is just the flat JPEG of the texture. We do have to do a little bit more to make it look a little more realistic, and we'll get into that part in just a sec. But right now, as you can see, I'm going to add my rib texture. You type in what you're looking for in your search window. As long as everything's linked in your folder, you should be able to find it easily. So here's my 2x2 rib that I'm going to add. I take off the heather texture that comes with it, and I go ahead and I just recolor the normal map or the part of the fabric that I want it to appear without like a heather texture look. Or you can use this, I mean, when you're creating your own. One of the things about the rib, it's very tight. So for sweaters, I like to enlarge it a bit so that you can kind of see the rib texture a little bit more clearly. And it's not like a t-shirt rib, it's more like a knit rib. So I go ahead and use that, and I'll change it to white, and you can see it looks more like a sweater when it's bigger. You can adjust your normals too. Don't be afraid to play around with some of the sliders in your project editor, because that way you can kind of get more realism out of it. Things are set to default often that you can manipulate, so you can go ahead and keep trying with that and get some more realism out of your textures. Right now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to just make sure all of my colors and everything is matched up. I'm just checking my white with my white. So it's a texture, and it has the alpha map, which is great because the alpha map, you can see that you can see through the holes. Right now it's a PNG texture. I think it was a JPEG, but I'm not sure. It might have been PNG, which is why I get the transparency. So let's check out what we're going to do next. And we're going to go into our texture editor. I'm going to add her hair right now. I think I'm tired of seeing her bald. But anyway, so come with me now while we go ahead and adjust the texture. Now I'm going to open up Photoshop, and I'm going to make my own normal map and my own displacement map. Usually the output from Shimaseki is beautiful, detailed, but it does not come with all of the maps attached. So you need to have a Photoshop or another image editor to go ahead and make normal maps and make a displacement map. So I'm just going to do that here. So once you've opened up your normal map editor, you can go ahead and make adjustments. I like to keep the blur 0. Only reason I say that is because sometimes images get too blurry and doesn't have the effect that you want. At least you'll be able to modify it inside the 3D program. If you're at 0, you can add some depth and some height to your normal map, and you go ahead and save it out. I'm just saving it as the same name in the same location. And then next we'll see how it looks, and then we'll go into the displacement map and make a displacement map as well. And that will offer some height and some depth to the texture on the sweater. And then you can put it in its appropriate locations in your property editor, and you'll be able to save this out once you've gotten all the nuances attached. You can see right now I'm resizing it. But I realized that you should put all the maps in first, and then you can resize so that all the maps are resized the same at the same time. All right, so let's move on. So now we need a bump map, also known as a displacement map, and we're going to go ahead back into Photoshop. Here I'm making the normals as crispy as I can, and then I can just adjust it accordingly. So right now I'm going to go to the same filter, 3D, and I'm gonna look for bump map. The bump map and the height map are the same maps. So I'm just gonna make mine a little bit more contrasty and a little less blurry. And let's see what we can get from the displacement map. You can see in the 3D viewer on the sphere, you can see the effects in your Photoshop window so that you know you're ready to export the map itself to be used in the 3D program. So let's do that. Save it as the same name. Just gonna write displacement. And we're off. So now that I've got everything scaled properly, I can go ahead and just adjust it accordingly. And then we can see that the effects are what we want when we get into our render window. Right now I'm just adjusting the shine on the model. I think these new avatars come with like a little bit of shine. So I just adjust mine to about 35 till it looks normal to me. And I'm just going to do all of her skin, and then we're going to come back in just a sec. It's so easy to tell you guys to like and subscribe, so please do click the notification bell. This is a preview of all of the content. In my membership section, that's where all my lives are stored. We've got community polls, and I give you guys updates on anything that I find out. There's merch in the store, finally. Also, my Instagram is available for everyone to check out. Interviews that I've done, browseware, metahumans, all of the kind of stuff that I do on a daily basis is showcased here. My work with the IACDE, Shimaseki, and more. Give it a shot. Guys, I'm going to give her some pants, change her level. That's why she's pink on top right now. I'm changing her shape of her pants really quickly while I share with you guys some of the nuances that we've already talked about as far as texturing. I'm going to go ahead and texture these pants as well. And you're going to see what it's like to work with all the different maps that are exported from software like Shimaseki or from any other software that exports all of the maps, such as Substance Designer or Substance Sampler, all of that good stuff, guys. So there's lots of different websites. I'm going to flash one down here for you that I've been trying out. That's pretty good. For making maps externally, and let's get into loading up all of the maps. Remember, before you resize, to load all of your maps. If you resize your texture before you load all of the maps, then only the texture will be resized. So I'm going to go ahead and give her some fabric qualities, and I'm going to adjust the pants so that they're not so voluminous. All right, so give me a second, we'll get back to the sweater. Okay, now we've got everything pretty much set up for us to start rendering. Let's take a look at how our textures look. One of the things I did forget is that the image I was working with has sort of a black outline on it. So I need to go ahead and use the CLO3D texture editor. But before I do that, I wanted to show you some of the things that I also do besides using shrinkage. There's something else that I do for knits that might help you with your final outlook for sweaters. So right now you can see that it's in the default fabric by choice. Because of all the little things that I do to make it look like a sweater, I don't really use a knit unless I wanted to drape a little bit more, then I use it. But for now, this is sort of like a 12 gauge, 10 gauge sweater. And I'm going to go ahead and change some of the maps so that I can get rid of that black line that I'm looking at that's in repeat somewhere in the sweater. So I need to go ahead and just try to find that thing. It's very hard to see, and I haven't cropped it, so I'm going to go ahead and use my texture editor to just give a little bit more of a repeat, and to see if I could stretch it out just a little bit so that that line disappears. So with me doing that, the line does disappear, and then we can move on to adding a little bit of color and seeing what our actual render looks like. Yeah, it's gonna kind of get on my nerve, but I do get over it. I'm gonna take down some of the displacement also. At this point, I do feel like it's interfering with the knit, but once I recolor it, the displacement doesn't bother me. So I kind of go back and forth with that. You will see. I'm just gonna apply this and see that it's all gone. And do we have happiness? I think this is the part where happiness comes to those who wait. Okay, I think we just need to wait a little bit longer for that happiness to go away. With this little stretch and repeat, it is gone. Get those cables a little bit closer together. And just make that repeat look a little neater. And then we can move on to adding some color. And I'm going to show you my secret for knits. I can't believe I'm telling you guys this. I can't believe I'm telling you this. But this is how I learned, so I have no problem letting you guys know how to do it. Just glad I can get it all into one video for you, and then you can see how it's done. Okay, so now is the time for, I was talking about the default fabric. Now you see that I have like a little bubble here. Usually that's not something that happens in a knit. So we can go ahead to our 2D window, and we're going to do something a little bit. There's still a black line there. Oh boy, let's get rid of it. Okay, what I'm noticing here, and I did want you guys to see this. I didn't want to cut it out of the video. But once you adjust one map, you have to go in and adjust all of them. So now that I fixed the main texture map, I also need to go and fix the normal map that was made from the same JPEG. And then I need to go in and adjust the displacement map so that all of the maps are synced together in order, because right now I can't see it on my flat pattern, but when I go into the render window, that's telling me that my normal map and my displacement map have something on them that is not visible on the texture map. So even though I turn it on and off for the displacement, that lets me know that it is the normal map that still has that little edge to it, and I'm going to go ahead and resize it just like I did in the texture map. And these are the things that you have to think of and remember while you're working. Lots of times we cut stuff out, we make it look cut and dry and like it's so easy, but it's not. So I'm hoping that you guys understand what I'm telling you here, and that some of the things that you do, you're going to have to keep trying to get it perfect to where you want to see. So now back to my secret sauce. In the back, you see that she has a little bit of a flounce to her. I'm gonna change the shoes to blue. So let me tell you guys, this is me working, and this is how it is. Like sometimes I couldn't see that purple any longer, but then there was something about it. So I decided to go ahead and make the shirt. You guessed it, purple, but you knew that already from the thumbnail. Anyway, so guys, one of the things that I'm talking to you about is this little flounce in the back. Let me see if it's still a little active here. You can go ahead and grab your iron. I like to grab the iron and iron out the armholes. That gives it that full fashion kind of hugging the arm shape. And once you simulate it, you'll see that the sweater is a little bit more clingy. Now you see that little blouson in the back. I just go ahead and I just take that out, because usually a sweater is going to cling a little bit closer to the body. So this is something that I do with just the little seams and the things that I want to fit and pull on the garment, not necessarily like a drape of a garment, but more like a pull or a cinch or the shrinkage that would be in an actual knit garment. So I hope you guys like that. Just a little nuance, not too much pressure. All right, now we're going to get to the posing part. Now I fast forwarded this for a reason. We all have been there. We have all been there. What you need to do is when you have your pose, sometimes before you make your actual pose, you can move your garment in like a regular standing pose and make sure that it's draped properly. That means different from your A pose. You can use a more relaxed pose, and then slightly move the bones out so that you have less collision, and then go into your regular pose. And then once you get into your regular pose, you can go back again and slightly move the bones. I noticed I didn't sew up her crotch. I always forget. If you guys watch enough of my videos, I always forget one seam. It's like just a thing. I don't know what it is. But once you start having that collision, go ahead and turn your bones on again. And then you can go ahead and just slightly move it out. I keep the simulation on while I'm changing the bones. That way I can kind of see where it is going to give me the collision. And am I going to be happy with that pose? And then I can save it. And that's the pose of the day, guys. So let's go ahead and get into rendering. And I'm going to change the shoes again. Why? OCD. I don't know, guys. Another quick tip. Sometimes when you transition into a pose, she does get lifted off the ground. She or he, the avatar, gets lifted off the ground. They've made a right click in the menu. Just click on the avatar anywhere, and then move the clothes and the garments to the ground, and everything just shifts down. Nothing is resimulated. It just actually all groups together and move down. So fabulous there. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some rendering now. Okay, so I did like a whole 30 minutes of rendering settings. You can go on and on and on and on. What I suggest is find your favorites and save them as a preset for your rendering. I tend to make a lot of decisions at the last minute, but I'm going to go ahead and give this a vignette. I want to add some of the shadow and change some of the tint to the preset lighting that I've chosen. Once you change it, it will turn into custom lighting that you can save. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the intensity of the shadow in the background. What I noticed is sometimes the avatar's bones are set a little bit off. Like right now, she looks like she's holding her head to the side, but her neck doesn't match. So one of the things about CLO avatars is they kind of have that bump in their neck. So I just moved the head a little bit till it's more appealing to me. One of the things I want to talk to you guys is about creating custom views. One of the things that I do, and it's a little bit hidden in the display drop down menu at the top. So you're going to see me go to display in just a second, and then I'm going to open up viewport. Once you have the viewport open, you can go ahead and save custom views, and then you can just render those out. So you don't have to stop and style the look every time you're ready to make a render. You can go ahead and set all of the views that you want, and then you can render them out, and it's not as time consuming as it could be to do it one by one and waiting for the renders to finish. It will just queue the renders from the viewport window. So I'm going to save this one. And I'm just going to make like a little story, like a little editorial with my one pose. So now I've got the lighting shadow in the back. And I'm going to go ahead and keep saving them now that her head looks like a normal person. Just some long body shots, my front, back, and side. Now my back's a little dark, so I'm going to go ahead and add a light. One of the things you can do is go ahead and add lighting to your scene no matter what. It's now your custom scene. So I can go ahead and add that. I'm going to increase the intensity so that I can see some of the details in the back, and change it to a warmer color. And then I think I'm ready for this view to be saved as my back view. And I'm just going to go and look at them all, and that light makes a great bit of difference just positioning it there to all of the renders. So looking good. And of course, you saw the thumbnail image. Now you get to see all of the images that I saved out. I do like to get a 3/4 shot and a close-up shot for the renders for the thumbnails. And for Instagram, I put all the other shots out. So I'm liking this warm feel, textured looking sweater. If you notice, some of the drag lines make it look a little more natural, which is what we have achieved today. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, community tab, remember the store, remember like and subscribe, and come back for more content. See you on Instagram. Bye.